little bit about Shavuot.
So the question is,
yes.
How did the Matan Torah get mixed up with Shavuot?
That's a good question. That's a very good. Why don't we look at that for a second? Okay.
In a very brief.
Yeah.
Succinct Reader's Digest.
I will try to do it in a very brief, succinct Reader's Digest. So if we go to, let's see. Find the various verses. You know what? I actually have a spreadsheet where I have all of these.
So did you understand what I was asking? How the two got conflated between?
Yeah, we've been talking about that a lot. Absolutely, yeah.
And the receiving the Torah, because that was his premise that it's not the same.
Right. Okay. So. Okay. So this is, let's start here. Exodus 19. So I don't know if you want to follow along, if you want on your smartphone or anything, but I'll just read it. So we have in Exodus 18, which I'll get back to, Jethro visits. Okay? So let's go back to 17 for a second. We've got the water from the rock incident, and then we have the Amalekites. In Exodus 18, we have the visit of Jethro. Jethro visits Moses, right? And the Israelites. We'll get back to that afterwards.
So where should I be looking?
19.
19.
Yeah.
Okay.
So this is really the key verse to set things in time. Okay, so it says on Exodus 19 at the beginning, "B'chodesh HaShlishi, B'tzeit B'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim." So on the third month, third new moon of the Israelites' exodus from the land of Egypt, B'yom hazeh, meaning on that actual new moon, meaning the first day of the third month, Ba'u midbar Sinai. They came to Mount Sinai. Okay. So there are certain places along all the Israelites' journeys where you're going to get place stamps and you're going to get time stamps, and those are really important. Okay, it'll tell you where the Israelites were, and it'll tell you when the Israelites were there. Right. So this is one of them. Okay, first day of the third month, we see they arrive at the desert of Sinai. Okay. So we'll go on a little bit. Verse 2, They had traveled from Refidim, they came to the desert of Sinai. Okay, and they came to the desert, and Israel camped across from the mountain. The mountain that we're speaking about is Mount Sinai. Okay? So we see that they arrive in the desert of Sinai on the first day of the third month, and then either that day or soon after they camp at the base of the mountain.
Which is the first month?
I'm sorry, the third month.
The third month of what?
So all of the counting in the Torah always goes by what we would call in this day and age Nisan.
Okay. As opposed to
the rabbis who say correct, which has absolutely no basis whatsoever in the Torah.
That's why I asked.
Right. So the first month, this first month is known in the Torah, it's not its name, its description is the month of the Aviv, Chodesh Aviv. This is the month that Israel exited from the land of Egypt, in the month of the Aviv, okay? The month of the Aviv is what starts the new yearly count. Exodus chapter 35:3 says explicitly that this month will be for you the head of all the months. It will be the beginning of the year, okay? So the new year is actually the first of Nisan, not the first of what the rabbis call Tishrei.
Yeah,
correct, okay? So whenever the counting of the months anywhere in the entire Tanakh, whenever you see the month, second month, third month, it's always counted off of that month of the Aviv, which we call now Nisan. Okay? So, and then you have a whole bunch of things that go on. All right. So
God.
Yeah. So Negadaha Moshe Allah. So Moses goes up. This is verse 3. Moses goes up to God. Okay. God calls him from the mountain. So then God says to Moses things to say back to Israel. Okay, I'll just skip ahead a little bit. So now Moses goes down off the mountain. He calls to the elders of Israel. This is verse 7. Moses comes down off the mountain and tells them everything that God had said. Tells it to the elders of Israel, to all the people of Israel. So then Moses, hears the elders of Israel and the people of Israel say, we will accept, and then he goes back up onto the mountain. Okay, I'm going to skip ahead a little bit because we don't have to go through all of it. Okay, but so we have the Israelites arriving in the desert of Sinai on the first day of the third month. We have Moses. We have either that same day or sometimes afterwards. They arrive at the mountain at Mount Sinai. Moses gets called up to the mountain, right? And you're not into hiking, so you know how long it takes to go up a mountain, right? There was no tramway there or anything like that. There was a little gondola, or it wasn't Disneyland yet. So he goes up to the top of the mountain, speaks to God, brings the message down from God, goes back to the Israelites. The Israelites say, yes, we agree. Then he goes back up to the mountain to God, okay? Then he comes back down off the mountain again. Okay, Yomer Yahweh al Moshe, this is verse 10, Lech el ha'am v'kidashtem hayom. So Yahweh said to Moses, go back down to the people, or kidashtem, and make them, or tell them to become sanctified, tell them to become holy, which we'll see what that means in a second. Yom, today, umachar, today and tomorrow, chipsu simlotam, and that they should wash their clothing. Washing the clothing is a way to make it ritually pure. We were just learning about that yesterday, right, with the tzaraat. Okay, and they should be ready for the third day. So this is where the rabbis actually get it from. They say that this means that they should be ready for the third day. They say that this sets Shavuot to the third day of, or at least the third day of the third month, right? Because on the third day, God is going to come down to the mountain and is going to appear to all of the people before on Mount Sinai. Okay, so again, let's put this in time. The Israelites arrive at the desert of Sinai on the first day of the third month. Moses goes up the mountain, gets the message of God, comes back down the mountain, tells the Israelites about the message. The Israelites say, okay, we agree. Moses goes back up to the mountain, tells God that they agree, and then God says, from this point forward, we're going to set a period of 3 days, meaning first, second, and on the third day, that's when I'm going to appear to the Israelites. Okay? So if you look at when Shavuot appears, according to the rabbinical calendar, it's the sixth day. Let me just confirm this.
It's 3 plus 3. Start off on the third day, and then it...
No, I'll get to that in a second. I'm saying, according to the rabbis, it gets a bit more complicated than this, but I just want to confirm here that according to the rabbis, being on the second day of Passover, days after Easter, it's the sixth day, if I'm not mistaken, always occurs on the sixth day of the third month. And the reason it always occurs on the sixth day of the third month is because there's a 50-day count from the Omer, right? Okay. The Omer, according to the rabbis, starts the day after the second day of Passover, right? They fix it in time. So it starts, if the first day of Passover is the 15th of the first month, the 15th of Nisan, then the second day of Passover, the 16th of Nisan, is when they start the 50-day count. And since they use a fixed calendar, they use the calendar of Hillel II, that 50-day count always ends on the sixth day of the third month, the sixth day of Sivan. That's when it always occurs. Okay? So it's fixed in time. All right? The question is there any definitive evidence that third day after Moses did all the stuff is the same day as the sixth day of the third month? And the answer is there's no definitive evidence. Okay, and if we go back one chapter, I'm going to try to make things really short. If we go back on chapter 18, okay, Vishma Yitro Kohen Midyan Choten Moshe et Kol Asher Asa Elohim LaMoshe LIsrael. So Jethro, the priest of Midian, the father-in-law of Moses, had heard about all that God had done to Moses and to Israel, among his people, that Yahweh had taken the people of Israel out of Egypt. So Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, took Tzipporah, Eshet Moshe, Moshe's wife, after Moshe had sent her back to Midian. If you remember, they're on their way from after the burning bush incident. Tzipporah comes with Moshe, then you have this whole incident. There's this. A lot of people don't even remember this incident, but there's an incident. They're in an inn in the desert, and you have this whole incident where Tzipporah takes the foreskin of their son, throws it at Moses, and says, "You are a bridegroom of blood to me," right? And then afterwards it says that Moses sent Tzipporah back to Midian. So now Tzipporah is coming with Jethro. Jethro is Tzipporah's father. They're coming from Midian, and they're meeting the Israelites after Moses went ahead. He did the whole 10 plagues things. Now he brought them up to Sinai, and now Jethro is coming from Midian with Tzipporah to meet Moses. Okay, So what does it say? It says, "V'yikach ito Kohen Moshe et Tzipora." Skip ahead a little bit. And his two sons. יבואו יתרו חותן משה ובניו אשתו אל משה אל המדבר אשר הוא חונה שם הר האלוהים. Verse 5 is very key. Exodus 18 chapter 5, Exodus chapter 18 verse 5. Jethro, the father-in-law of Moses, and his sons, meaning Moses' two sons, okay, and his wife, meaning Zipporah, came to Moses in the desert, Asher hu chone sham, where he was camping there, Har Elohim, at the mountain of God. Okay, so we see that when Jethro came with Zipporah and with Moses' two sons, where was Moses? He was at the mountain of God. The mountain of God is Mount Sinai. Okay. When did Moses arrive at Mount Sinai? It says they arrived, that the Israelites we saw arrived in the desert of Sinai on the first day of the third month. Moses goes up the mountain, comes back down the mountain, goes back up down the mountain, comes back down the mountain, right? 2 times. Then we have this whole thing that Jethro arrives with Zipporah and the two sons at Mount Sinai. So now we have this whole story happening here, right here, right? And to make a long story short, Jethro doesn't just come and say hello. He comes, he eats with Moses, and then he sees that Moses is judging the people from day to night, if you remember, for all day long, right? And he sees, right, this whole story where he sees you're doing this all wrong, this is too much of a burden, these people are going to waste away, you're going to waste away if you continue doing this, and he suggests setting up a hierarchy of judges, right? And
he tells them to delegate.
Exactly, to delegate. He actually sets up a hierarchy. He says put judges over the thousands, over the hundreds, over the 50s, over the 20s, right? And so Moses, so we have a whole intervening story before the 10 Commandments are given. How do we know that this happens before the 10 Commandments are given? Okay, because we see that where did Jethro go to meet Moses? Jethro went to meet Moses at Mount Sinai. It says it explicitly. Okay, so after Moses arrived at Mount Sinai at the very earliest on the first day of the third month, you have up down the mountain. You have Jethro coming, dropping off the wife and kids, eating with Moses, seeing that Moses is sitting there eating or judging the nation from day to night, making his suggestion. Moses is now going around, choosing out the leaders, setting up all the hierarchical system. Okay, and this all happens before supposedly the 6th day of the third month. Okay, so that's a lot to happen. That's a lot to happen in 6 days, right? That's a lot to happen. That's number one. Number two, there is no place anywhere in the entire Tanakh that ties this 6th day of the third month to the giving of the Torah. We don't get an exact date. The closest date we get is when they arrived in the desert of Sinai, and that's on the first day of the third month. And then we have all these intervening things happening, okay? And we don't have a date as to when actually God appeared and gave the 10 Commandments
whatsoever. I think that's purposeful.
And I think it's purposeful as well, very possibly purposeful. Just like Moses' grave was never revealed, maybe the actual day when the 10 Commandments were given, perhaps is never revealed.
I think it might be that instead of celebrating with a big meal about the 10 Commandments, we're supposed to obey the 10 Commandments.
Right. So, but what the rabbis say, so they come along and they say, well, the going up and down the mountain took, I have to remember exactly the numbers they give, but that took 1 day, that took 3 days. Then they say that there were another 3 days where we saw that Moses said to the people, prepare yourself for the third day, sanctify yourselves, wash your clothing, put the fence, there's also putting the fence around the base of the mountain so that they don't go up. And the rabbi said that took another 3 days, and that brings us to the 6th day of the third month. And so they basically, I would say, make it up or read into the text saying that the giving of the Torah was therefore on the 6th day of the third month. Doesn't say that anywhere, and we see that there's a lot that happens between the time the Israelites get there and the time that actually God appears on the mountaintop. And we see furthermore that a specific date is never given for when the Torah is given, for when the 10 Commandments are given. So what the rabbis do is they play a little game where they say, well, it seems like we could kind of fit it in. We could read into the text. We can say that this took so long, this took so long, this took so long. That comes out to the 6th day of the third month. And so now we have this new meaning for the holiday, which is Chag Matan Torah, the holiday of the giving of the Torah. Okay? Never mentioned anywhere in the Torah, never mentioned anywhere in the Tanakh that this is what Chag Shavuot is associated with. Chag Shavuot, as we said before, is associated with the first fruits of the wheat harvest. Okay? There are three pilgrimage holidays, right? Shloshot Regalim. The first is Passover, the second is Shavuot, and the third one is Yom Teruah, what the rabbis call
Sukkot.
it's actually Sukkot. It's actually Yom Teruah, but it's really all part of that same really, Yom Teruah, Yom Kippurim, and Chag Sukkot, they really all run into each other. So that's those 7th month holidays.
Yeah.
It's those 7th month holidays,
It's,
right?
it's the entire month. Yeah.
It's pretty much the entire month, exactly.
Here it is, yeah.
So and each one is associated with a harvest festival. Okay.
Exactly.
The Passover is associated with the harvest of the
Wheat.
no.
No, the barley.
Bingo, exactly. And anyone who lives in the land of Israel knows that first the barley is going to come up and ripen, and then afterwards you see the wheat, right? And in fact, right around now, maybe not in the Golan because it's been so hot, but around most of the land of Israel, especially in the hills of the Judean hills, this is right around when the wheat is going to be coming ripe. It's about 50 days after the barley becomes ripe, okay?
And then
And then Sukkot is the harvest festival, all of the fall fruits, the pomegranates, the grapes, the figs, etc., right? So these are really 3 harvest festivals, okay? And Shavuot in particular has no other meaning, okay? Passover has another meaning. The other meaning for Passover is obviously the celebration of the Exodus from Egypt. Sukkot and the 7th month holidays all have other meanings, okay? Sukkot is sitting in tabernacles and of course Yom Kippurim, of course Yom Teruah, all have their own specific meanings. But Shavuot has no other meaning other than a wheat harvest, a celebration of the first fruits of the wheat harvest, and therefore, since the rabbis, in my opinion, deliberately wanted to destroy or did destroy, end up destroying the temple, that has no more meaning because these first fruits, this wheat first fruits offering has to be brought at the temple. The only place you're allowed to bring offerings is at the temple. Okay. Right. Tabernacle and then later the temple. So now they had to come up with a new meaning for the holiday. Okay, they had destroyed the old meaning, the original meaning of the Torah, which was a celebration of the wheat harvest. Now what are they going to do? They can't cancel the holiday completely. It's in the Torah. Yeah, we'll make it up. We could kind of shoehorn this holiday or this date of when the Torah was given into more or less when Shavuot falls out, and so we'll make up this new meaning for the holiday, which is Chag Matan Torah. And that's it in a nutshell.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You're welcome. There's more to say, but I won't get into it because I don't want to overload you. But it actually gets even more complicated because the Omer offering, which starts off the 50-day count, the 49-day count, the day after which is Chag Shavuot, is also never given a specific date in the Torah. And in ancient times, there was not a fixed calendar that was used. We now use a fixed calendar since 354 CE. We use the calendar of Hillel II. It's a fixed calendar based on actually the late Babylonian calendar, but in the ancient times, there was no such thing as a fixed calendar. The calendars, the months were set by actually going out and observing the new moon, and the Chodesh Ha'aviv was set by looking when the barley is about to be ripe. So it gets it even more nebulous as to when that Shavuot could fall out because it's a variable holiday. But that's for another time.
That's okay because I have to research it first.
Go for it.
So I can then come back and argue because
I
can't stand it when I don't have enough information to make an informed opinion as to even what you said was true.
I can give you the article I wrote on this topic.
You know what I mean?
I'm totally know what you mean.
I'm one of those people that I will listen to.
If you want, Karen, I'll send you the article.
To people, but I like to be able to be informed enough to have an opinion.
You should be informed.
Or to be able to
That's
counter.
what it's all about.
Go for it. I love
That's
it.
what it's all about.
Yeah,
That's what we need. We
Yeah.
need to be able to discuss.
That's the basic Karaite motto, which is do not search well in the scriptures and do not rely on my opinion.
There you go.
And I cannot tell you how many times people have come back and argued with me, and I've said to them, you know what, you're right, and I've changed my opinion. Because that's what any honest person at the end of the day has to do.
It's not a matter of being right, but I can't even contribute to the conversation because I don't know enough.
I'll tell you what I'll do. If you have a WhatsApp, I can send you the article I wrote on this topic, which basically describes everything I've said right here. When you're back in the United States or on that nice long plane ride out to Los Angeles, where you'll be staring at the walls,
The truth is,
going like this,
The truth is, that's what I will do. I'm very nerdy.
Sure.
Things like that.
Yeah.
That's definitely.
So if you give me your WhatsApp, I can send you the article, and
Tell you what.
I would love to hear feedback. I actually you can't imagine how much I appreciate it, and you can argue with me until the middle of the night, and I will absolutely love it. I like being challenged because it tests the theories to see if they're right.
Melech, did you mention when you said that it was the wrong? I'm sorry if I missed it, but you said something about it being the count doesn't start on the 16th.
Correct.
It actually starts on the Sabbath of Pesach.
The
Did you
count
say that?
starts
The second day
the
of
Machrat
Shabbat.
the day after the Shabbat.
Right. So if the Shabbat happened to fall on the third day of that month, it's going to start on the fourth day,
Yes.
moving toward Shavuot.
It's very very confusing with all these different.
But it means participation that way, rather than just taking a written calendar. Isn't that right?
9170, yeah.